The Catred.org podcast, your weekly guide to the world of esports news. Presented by Richard Lewis.
Okay, greetings and salutations, and welcome to another Catred.org podcast. No surprises what the topic's going to be about mostly today. It's going to be about the ESWC. It is an ESWC special where we're going to look at all the news that happened in the build-up to ESWC, at the tournament itself, at the 1.6 tournament itself, and if we've got time, at the StarCraft 2 tournament as well, all of which we'll be covering from live on site. In fact, by the time you're actually listening to this, I'm probably going to be on a plane, shitting myself, flying out to Paris. But first things first, the last podcast we did generated something of a response, in particular the section about bullshitters, where you'll remember the number one bullshitter was the CGS, as a big collective homogenous group of bullshit artistes extraordinaires. Now, it generated a bit of an angry response from a couple of former employees, one of which contacted me personally, and I don't know if you know Alexius Charles Conroy, who's better known as Jax from Jack's Money Crew. He actually got in touch with me personally and wrote me a little bit of a letter just to go over what he thought was incorrect in that. And in the interests of fairness and presenting both sides of the story, I'm going to certainly read that to you and then provide some responses of my own, and then we're going to move on with the show. Just want to say as well before I read this that I've had the pleasure of meeting Jax before. I met him at the previous ESWC, funnily enough, and we went out for beers. He's a stand-up guy. You know, got a lot of respect for what he's done, and certainly respect his opinion, even though I am going to disagree with what he said, which was, just to clarify, the drafts were completely legit. The amount of mind games and head fucks we threw at each other were actually extremely stressful. I had no idea who was getting picked, and I could give two shits about a player background or camera ability. As far as what you said about making them go to the gym, as far as I'm aware, that's totally inaccurate. I never once told my guys to go to the gym, because it sure as hell wasn't about to use my free time to work out rather than having a beer. I don't know if Jason personally asked Warden to hit the gym, but I know Jason is very health conscious, and if he did, it'll have been for health purposes. Like I said, I have no agenda here. I think CGS did a lot of things wrong, and I am pissed it didn't work out, since we all jumped in head first and essentially destroyed the North American scene. But the players picked were picked on merit, and the GMs in no way had these backroom antics. So, let's assess that, because, you know, I'd like to believe it. I think we'd all like to believe that the CGS was genuine, but I'm not even going to say that Jax is incorrect in what he's saying. Perhaps he believes that genuinely. Perhaps he was one of the few people who were playing a non-rigged game. But I'm a rational man, and, you know, I like to think of myself as a journalist, even though, you know, when you write in esports, it's very hard to kind of think of yourself in any professional terms a lot of the time. But, you know, what he's saying there's no real evidence to support what he's saying, because if it was a meritocracy, then what we know had occurred wouldn't have occurred. And again, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let the evidence speak for itself, and I'm just going to point out a few things, and then perhaps we can just draw a line under the whole CGS issue. If people still want to pretend that it was real and genuine and not manufactured and a meritocracy, that's cool. I mean, you know, whatever floats your boat. I'm sure there's people out there that believe in the fucking Tooth Fairy. I'm sure there's people out there that believe in Santa Claus, and there's even crazier people who believe in God and Jesus and things like that. So, you know, it's up to you. Whatever, you know, mythology, you know, makes you sleep at night, that's cool. But, you know, again, I like to think that we're all rational people at heart, and when presented with a strong argument, we can arrive at certain conclusions. So, here's the things that I would say make the meritocracy argument seem a little bit stretched. To use an example from the American scene, which is what Jax was mainly talking about, of course, you've got Zomblers not getting drafted in the first place. You know, they were a hyped team. They were well respected. They had a lot of fans, a big following, a cult following, if you like. And, you know, people thought they were going to do as well as, you know, Complexity, 3D, FG, EG, all of those guys. And they beat, some big teams. They beat Pandemic, they beat Hyper, I think they lost the Sex Pistols, they beat Verge. On the second day, they went into it, they had to beat Complexity, these 1.6 superstars, which they did. It was 10-8, but it was a shock because Cole were, huge favourites. And then, they went on to win again against United. They avenged the defeat against Sex Pistols. They went up against EG and, they lost. But, ultimately it was a great record. And if we were talking about merit, Zombler should have been drafted. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt about that. And if you look at what was happening out there, the GMs were doing these things, show matches. Again, if you weren't around, it was basically you'd pick a team you wanted to have a look at and maybe another team you wanted to have a look at. You put them together, you make them play. You could throw in wild stipulations, and we'll certainly come to that again later. And basically it was a way of kind of scouting, if you like. Now, Zomblers were at no point asked to play a single show match. That's not one. And they were even going up to GMs and asking, can we play a show match? We want to show you something. Put us up against the big boys again. We'll show you it ain't a fluke. They were asking and they were asking and they were asking. And it never really came to fruition for them. They just weren't allowed to do one. Now that to me suggests immediately, again being rational and just looking at the evidence, that there was something of an agenda there. And it wasn't just the American scene that sort of had these things going on, because, let's not forget that Fnatic, who were head and shoulders above the best team in Europe at the time when CGS reared its head, they went to the Combine, and, as it was called, and they pretty much, they beat everyone. They performed brilliantly. They were given ridiculous show matches where they couldn't speak, their native tongue. They weren't allowed to call in anything other than English during the game. They were taken apart, split up. All this mad stuff was going on. And ultimately, what it boils down to, they weren't going to get drafted, and they weren't going to get drafted, despite the fact they deserved it, due to contractual stuff. And again, I was told this. On good authority from Fnatic staff that there was contracts in there. CGS weren't willing to do buyouts. CGS didn't even inquired about buying the Fnatic brand in the same way they did with Complexity, and it didn't come to fruition for them because of outside factors. Nobody could dispute at that particular moment in time. They were the best team in the first season of CGS. In Europe, it's just documentable fact. So you have to ask, why weren't they drafted? And if we look at the UK Combine, same thing. I hate bringing up Zebborg because I was personally associated with them. I was the manager, and I get criticism for going on and on about them, and that's cool. I totally understand that. And I totally respect people's viewpoint. Maybe I should shut the fuck up about it, whatever. But the reality is, we went there. We finished second in the pre kind of TV show event. We finished second. At the TV show, again, being beaten by sort of Dignitas both times. We had ultimately, I guess, done enough to be drafted. We'd got on really well with the TV people. I think we had a disproportionate amount of TV time because we were better in front of the cameras than Four Kings, Infused, whatever. But we weren't picked, and we weren't picked for outside factors. And yeah, there was all sorts of crazy shit going on. It was a meltdown, and we weren't picked because of infighting and whatever, or at least that's what they said. But ultimately, I don't think we had any chance. It was a complete illusion. And certainly, if again it was a meritocracy, which is this party line being trotted out by CGS people, they would have been drafted because they did it. They finished second. They warranted it. So you've got three choice examples there. Each scene in particular had one team that many felt should have been drafted but weren't. Now, again, that's just evidence. That's just out there. You can just debate that. But for me, that contradicts the meritocracy argument. Okay, so then we move on to the next criticism of our piece about bullshit, and that was that it was manufactured. And that, I think, again, this is pretty much undeniable. I don't understand why people would think a TV show wouldn't be manipulated or manufactured in this way, and that's primarily what it was. It was TV first and foremost. It was entertainment first and foremost. The fact that it revolved around esports ultimately was the secondary concern. What they were trying to do was create something entertaining that would get outsiders to want to follow it. And that's, great. I mean, it works. It makes sense. Shit like Robot Wars. Do you care? Do you follow, fucking what Sir Killerbot's up to, when he's not out there putting axes through little remote controlled cars with fucking fake missiles on it and all? No, you don't. At the end of the day, it's just brain candy. It's just half an hour of throwaway entertaining bullshit, and you can sort of get into it and follow the progress of a few people, but you're not really going to get that into it. That was the kind of show CGS were trying to put together. They even used the same production team from Robot Wars, so the example is appropriate. But let's look at some key examples of manufactured stuff. And we had the kind of Fnatic, again, to bring them back into it, and the NOA thing when they were getting picked. And people will remember that Jonas BSL Vikan, the 1.6 legend, he, when it came to picking them, took the bit of paper, scribbled something down, scribbled something out, scribbled something down, scribbled something out, handed it to the person reading it, and then said, okay, it's NOA, it's not Fnatic. Big shock, gasps all round, But when the paper was put to one side, somebody cleverly half-inched it. They took it and looked at it, and there wasn't Fnatic written down on it. And again, you can see this picture. I can tell you where it is. Actually on Cadred in the media section. And basically, what was on there is an N, a scribble, NOA, and then a smiley face. So at no point did he write Fnatic down, which is what he said he did. That's what was reported that he did. He reported it was a massive, difficult choice, but in fact what we had was an act of complete pageantry. Fnatic weren't in it, again, for the reasons we already talked about, but they had to make it look as if they were, and that's, manufactured. So, again, that seems to kind of discount that argument. But if that doesn't, then perhaps this quote from Tonya Welsh might. Now, people might remember not that long ago when it looked like we were going to get a new CPL with some of the people that were behind finance and CGS. Tonya Welsh came out with an apologetic series of articles that kind of revealed what was going on behind the scene, and ultimately nothing that people didn't know, but she was kind of the first high-profile person to really go on record and say a lot of these things, while at the same time, of course, trying to distance herself from any responsibility, which is horseshit, because she was party to it all, and certainly waited until a safe distance before she started telling these truths. But, still, at least after the fact, she decided to come out and say these things. Now, one of the key quotes, again, from one of her articles, I think the second of third, which was published on the Complexity Gaming website. Again, I'm sure if you Google it, you can find these. She said, the CGS draft in London in September 2007, we were down to the final 4 teams for CS Source, and the brackets for the final matches to occur were handed out. It was pointed out to me by one of the remaining teams that the matchups were wrong based on the quarter semi-final results. So I went to the producers of the show and showed this to them. I was told point blank that they were manipulating the brackets to make sure that 2 specific teams would end up in the final. These teams were more television friendly, in inverted quotations, and so they wanted them in the finals to make sure the show had the intensity and appeal they wanted. So, are we really still going to debate this? Are we saying she's lying? I mean, what are we saying here? I don't understand how people can pretend it wasn't manufactured. This is before, I'm not even going to present all the things I saw, all the things I heard. General managers saying, it's a waste, to me, it's a waste of time everybody even being here. I won't work with piss heads, things like this. So it's nonsense to try and make out that it was a fair and level playing field. I am not going to harp on about it anymore. I think it's a ridiculous amount of time that we've already spent on it. It's just well documented. The facts are out there. There's nothing to support meritocracy. There's nothing to support that it wasn't manufactured ultimately, and I think most sensible and rational people will look at that and be able to conclude that for themselves. I'm sure that the same people who are disagreeing with me and saying that I'm actually lying, will have lots of choice things to say, lots of personal insults thrown my way. But ultimately, I'm just tired and bored. There isn't enough nonsense in esports as it is, where we now have to kind of do this Stalinist, revisionist approach and talk about what CGS got right because people want it on their CVs and they want to say, look, we had integrity. If you were involved in CGS, you were compromising your integrity. That includes myself, because as a journalist, the last thing you want to do is admit you've effectively lied in print. And, I've said a lot of things during the time of CGS, ultimately because they were paying me to say them. And I didn't put my hands up and say, that's ridiculous. I shouldn't have done it. I wouldn't do it again. But, I took the money and I towed the party line, and that's shameful. In anything that you do. And I'm absolutely, happy to go on the record and say that, because to pretend I'm some paragon of virtue would be complete nonsense. It would be absolute bullshit. And that's not what I'm about, certainly not now. Look, I'm happy to say CGS, it was just all about kind of falsifying this credibility. I was part of that, for a short period of time, ultimately, because, we certainly had some disputes, and in the end I was deemed, I guess, kind of surplus to requirements, and happy to be so in the end, even though it meant I missed out on a trip to the Playboy Mansion, and I'm never going to get to go there ever again, not unless I commit some kind of horrible, atrocious crime. But still, the facts remain that I think if we just draw the line under it and say that basically if you want to go out there and research it, I don't think anyone's going to be arriving at the conclusion that the former CGS employees would have you believe, and that is that it was fair and above board. Alright, and with that unfortunate business out the way, we can now move on with the ESWC special. And I have listened to your feedback. I have listened, yes, I made a forum thread and I said you're all idiots as per usual, but I did listen. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a live panel, kind of doing each segment of the show. So Newswatch, the interviews, talking point, all of that stuff. It's just basically going to be one kind of continuous recording of a panel of people, all ESWC relevant, and we're going to talk about all the tournaments and everything that's going on. We're going to look at the news. We're going to do everything. So hopefully it's going to be a bit more dynamic, and it's going to give it that real kind of feel of it's not just me analysing the news and reading some scripted bits and pieces. So without any further ado, let's get on to Newswatch.
Newswatch.
Okay, then a bit of a change to how we normally do Newswatch. It's not just going to be me reading the news. I've got an all-star panel to kind of go over the big stories this week. And we are going to talk about ESWC in a moment. But first I'll introduce them. We've got Steele, who obviously is going to be there with Check 6. He'll be at ESWC. We've got Orga, who you'll know from Speed Gaming, the Danish ARPing sensation. He's not going to be at ESWC, but obviously he is an expert in the Danish scene, who are well represented with 3 teams. We've got the young and beautiful Brandon Webber from MTW, and the equally beautiful, if not more so, MBK from Very Games. So, shouldn't need any introductions. Guys, thanks very much for coming on.
Yes, sorry.
Brilliant. I'm going to crack on with the first story, and this is actually going to be a little bit closer to one of your hearts than everybody else, and that is Speed Gaming making a change with Device deciding he didn't want to be in the team anymore. I saw that Danny gave a statement to us and was kind of saying, he couldn't commit, and what really happened, Martin?
Well, he didn't feel like using a lot of time anymore on CSS, and he's just started high school, or I think it's what it's called in English, and he's got a lot of new friends. He's drinking beers. He has to go through that phase of having, drinking, getting pissed and everything. So I guess that's more important, and it's fine with me. And he also wanted to focus on his 2 weeks practice, or 2 days a week practice on badminton, or what do you call it in English? I think it's badminton, right?
Yeah, badminton.
Yeah.
It's considered a bit of a girly sport over here, though. So I don't.
I actually played it as well, so, but I'm a girl.
Well, it's not XA, man, because he's massive. Like if he played badminton, he can do whatever he wants.
He'll wreck the racket every time he shoots. So.
It's a bit too delicate for him.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, so what do we make of the replacement then? I'll open this up to all of you guys. And Steele, if you follow European CSS, do feel free to jump in, because I always thought Device was kind of one of the standout players in the team. Are they worse off without him?
I'm not too familiar with the scene at all, so I wouldn't be able to put in much insight there.
That's all right. Typical American.
I'm Canadian. Come on.
Sorry, bro. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Look. What about you? What about you guys? What about the other Europeans?
Well, I don't know. I've never really heard or seen Simon M play before, so I still have to stick by. It could be a poor decision, really. Like Device was like a strong player. So.
Against Speed Gaming, and I don't know. I can't really remember how good he was or whatever. So I wouldn't say anything. I prefer that.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I mean, he's a new guy. I think he's been in the scene for a while, and I must admit I didn't know him before the Onyx evening, and actually, it was mainly a decision by Ruka and Rhythm Danny that they wanted to take him in. I mean, me and XA, we had more taken a more laid back approach on this, so we just play for the fun of it, and I mean he's good. He's good, and he has some potential. And of course,
I mean, we know
Device...
about Simon M though, because for me, like Device was at least a proven up and coming talent. You know, he'd been to lands and he'd play well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know anything about this Simon M.
Me neither.
So where have you found him? Was he on a public server, Martin? Where did you get him from?
I'm really not the right one to ask. I mean, I know you just, they found him at Onyx. He performed very well, and I mean he's been upcoming in Denmark. We have a lot of those players, so he's actually surprised me. He's pretty good. Okay. I mean, he still has some work. I mean, experience-wise, but he's a good aimer and he has a good brain. I mean, he's a good team player as well. So.
All right. Well, we'll rush on to the next story, which was basically Apex Gaming came in for the former Virus team, the Finns. Now, the first question I'll ask you guys. I mean, were you guys surprised? I guess Nathan's perhaps the best person to speak to about this, because were you surprised that Virus Gaming couldn't deliver on the promises to send the team to ESWC?
I don't really know, even though it's a French organization. I never talked with someone in it. But what I know basically about them is that few poker players winning a lot of money are sending money to every team like Conroy and
that's what I heard.
StarCraft and so on. So maybe we've had a bad time and just said, no, we're going to keep our money. Well, I don't really know.
I heard that as well. I just couldn't believe that anyone would bankroll an esports organisation with poker winnings. That sounds like the kind of thing Goody would do. I can't even believe. I mean, that's real. That was really what was happening.
That's what people told me. So basically, I trust them.
Well, that's just as bad as Blade with Black Fogger using his mom's credit card.
I wondered how long we were going to take to bring him up. I haven't heard it mentioned in this whole ESWC thing. But yeah, it just seems ridiculous. I mean, because, I'm guessing you can win as well as lose, right? I mean, it's not a guaranteed source of income. It just seems so ridiculous. And I got told they were salarizing some StarCraft 2 players in the organisation as well.
Probably.
So that just seems ridiculous. But I mean, they had a great team. I mean, Nathan, you've battled with, back when they were CKRAS and stuff. I mean, do you see them still as the kind of the second best team in Europe?
I wouldn't say that, because, I mean, I don't really know. I didn't play them since like 1 month, maybe more, because they were just not playing any team from ESWC and just preparing their game. But as we know them, we're gonna be certainly really strong, but I couldn't say like they're top 1 or top 2 or whatever. I just want to play them, and I'm gonna say afterwards.
Okay, well, what about you, Webbs? I mean, you're in a pretty good organization now. It's a far cry from GE Clan. I mean, do you see them as the second best in Europe, or do you think they're part of a chasing pack and maybe it's too close to call?
I mean, I feel as if they put in the practice, they would be, but I don't see them playing a lot. And I saw Nashje comment like he had like 21 hours, the most he's had for like however many months. So it's not really a good way to play in preparation for the biggest event Source has seen for a while.
Yeah, well, there's been do you think maybe that this saga has disrupted them? I mean, then, because, for a long period of time, it might have seemed that they weren't going to go. I know they always said, hey, guys, we are going to go.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can never be that certain, right?
Yeah, I guess that could, that could be a factor. But I don't see them as top 2 material at the moment. Maybe we'll see after the ESWC, but I just don't see it.
Interesting. Right.
Yeah, I agree though. I mean, they have the potential, but they're not putting in the playtime.
Well, you go back quite a way with some of the players. I know you're good friends with Yuha, Angel Dust.
Yeah.
I mean, have you got any kind of little bits of gossip you can maybe throw our way about their preparation and how they're feeling going into the tournament?
Actually, I haven't spoken with them about it, so I don't know.
Lockdown. Well, and I'll ask Steele as well, because you've been quiet in the corner, and we don't like to treat guests like that. Have you played against these guys?
Actually, I haven't played against them, and I only know of the European scene from what I discovered at DSRAC last year, and I don't think they were in attendance, and if they were, then they didn't really catch my radar. So I've been hearing that they're going to take us down, and it's going to be Very Games and them who make it out of our bracket. But I haven't really paid too much attention to them. I don't know much about them. All I've heard is Angel Dust is a really good player. So I honestly don't know what to expect from them at all.
That was true in 2005. It's no, I'm just kidding. I'm good friends with him. I can say that. It's okay. He'll enjoy that. But yeah, it was true in 2005. But yeah, look. But you've been mixing and playing against Europeans, right? I mean, because I know Pex has been doing the same thing. He's been asking me to get him like games in the middle of the night and stuff, like crazy times, to play against Europeans in preparation for ESWC. So have you not had the kind of pleasure of playing against these guys at all?
We've been able to play against LDLC on our New York server, but we've never actually had our full roster on. We've had so many conflicts with 2 people with their work schedules that most of our practice days are just playing with a ringer. Very rarely has our whole team been on, and we haven't really been able to go over strats at all. So everything we do, we just go into the scrims, start bitching at each other. It's like a huge bitch fight. Everyone's stubborn as hell on our team. Everyone's got their own ego and issues and ideas on how things should be going. So we just have all these issues stemming from that. So we've only played LDLC once. We tried to get Very Games, but we have one player in bumfuck nowhere Canada in Edmonton. Like, he pings 220 to European server, and he pings like 120 to New York. They won't play on New York, so we haven't had much success there. But we will be boot camping Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So hopefully we'll be able to play Very Games there, LDLC, Virus. Don't really see the need to play Dynamic. And there we go, MTW. So we got a bunch of squads that we could play there.
Well, that's good, man. We can just make this podcast, you guys just organising some scrims, man. Just use it like that. It's all good.
All right, so you get Saturday.
But right. I'm gonna move on. Because we haven't even got to the good stuff yet. Right, CS Global Offensive was at the Intel Extreme Masters in New York. Now I know some of you guys were involved in kind of the consultancy and the build-up of the game. I know obviously that applies to you, Brandon. I know some people weren't. But this was kind of the first time we all got to have a look at it in a competitive environment. Did you guys watch the show match?
I did not.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what did you think of it then?
Why is everyone using the auto sniper? Like, someone, hello? Like, what the hell?
I mean, it looks really bad, doesn't it? I mean, the recoil just seems like, I don't know, it's so random, really. And
Yeah, that's true.
I don't understand the recoil. I don't understand what the hell the 3 different crosshairs mean.
yeah.
The game has like a COD-ish look to it, where it looks like they're trying to attract the COD type players, the Battlefield 3 players, and I think they gotta just keep the maps more simple and remove all the crap. Sort of like
I'll
what
tell you what I liked. DE train. All those big yellow barrels, man. It looked like the fucking Springfield nuclear plant from The Simpsons. Like, well, I couldn't actually believe it. It was just so cartoonified.
I just don't understand why Train and Nuke as well. They just put big ass like yellow Twinkie, whatever the hell those things are called, just in the middle of the map to make a CT sided map even more CT sided. Like the terrorists have zero room to wiggle with. You're confined to a narrow corridor where the CTs have a million places to hide. It's basically like hide and seek strike now. You can't do anything.
But you've been speaking to the developers, haven't you, Brandon, through these private forums I kind of hear so much about.
Yeah.
Have they been taking on board the feedback from the competitive community, or has most of what you guys been feeding back about the game kind of been focused on Source rather than Global Offensive?
Well, I had a check today, and they've been going on about trying to like implement some VoIP sort of thing, but they haven't. Most of what we've suggested or said is kind of like gone over their heads per se, but
in what way? Go on, elaborate. Is it that you guys are pointing out bugs and glitches and they're not getting it, or is it game mechanics? What seems to be the stumbling block when you're talking to the developers?
Well, I just don't think they understand what we mean. Like when we were in Seattle, like we were saying like all the issues like with the net graph and whatever, and they didn't they were surprised that we knew about like the console and like all the things you could do with it. And I don't think they actually understand like how much we know about the game and whatever.
What about you, Nathan? I mean, you're in the dominant team in Source at the moment. What are your thoughts about Global Offensive? Do you have any feelings about maybe trying it competitively or switching, or as far as are you concerned, Source is the way to stay?
The thing is that we're gonna switch only if Global Offensive would do a tournament like it was on Dota 2 with $1.6 million, because it's like basically the game looks really bad. It doesn't look, you cannot have a great aim on it. The maps looks really strange and stuff like that. So I didn't really watch the match, the show match though, but it did not look really so good. Like players were having fun more than really playing the game. And that was not really good to watch.
The Julies look good though. I mean, I was impressed with the Julies. They look really swish. Rest of the guns not as much, but Julies.
Machine gun.
Oh, I didn't see that. I don't think anyone used that.
Machine pistol. Yeah, they did.
Oh, the SMGs. People were using those.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah. I saw some bizarre guns that I hadn't seen used like in so long being used in this, man. It was unbelievable. So just people busting out P90s, and and it was working for them. They'd run down mid with it. So I mean, I definitely think it's there's gonna have to be some work in ironing the game out. But I mean, isn't that true of every game? I mean, we're still saying that about Source, and it was released in 2004.
I think that it's too early to say anything because it's still pre-alpha, if you want to call it that. So there is a lot of potential for the game. I think the developers really need to stick with what they like, proper game mechanics that you see in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Source, where you can actually have a competitive game where you eliminate all the clutter, you eliminate all the hiding spots, you make it really the simplest form of objective team-based first-person shooter where you work with your teammates to actually do the objective instead of finding a different spot to hide under. And I think if they can nail that, and they have until I guess the spring they said the release date was, and they have beta coming up soon. So I think once they get the beta rolling around and they actually have lots of people, Counter-Strike players, saying, hey, what the hell is going on with this game? It looks like Call of Duty. Then I think they can start turning it around a bit and fixing it up.
All right then. Well, next thing we'll move on to. I won't bring up ESC Gaming leaving their organisation. I think that's all pretty straightforward. What's happened there? No real need to debate it. But what I will talk about, because I know this will probably take up a little bit of time as well. We moved from CS:GO, and then there was another massive Source engine update, and it's so typical of Valve. It's like they look at the calendar. Oh look, there's a big LAN event there for sports. Like, I know what we'll do. We'll fuck with them and we'll do an update. And they've done it so many times now. Like, I honestly think they're just taking the piss, but that's just me. I've not really played a lot during the update. But from what I have done, I had a little go on Mixed PC earlier, just having a run around and stuff. From what I can see, it does seem to be a step in the right direction, and I personally like what they've done with the AWP in removing the quick scoping. Yeah. What do you guys think about it? You guys are obviously the professional players. What's your take on it?
This isn't the first time an update's been released directly before a tournament. I've had updates that happened a day before a tournament. I think it's they're making the right changes. I think the timing is utter shit. Like a week before ESWC, our operas just, everyone's so used to being able to, either jump peek or, be able to actually re-peek at least once and quick switch. Now if you quick switch, you can't shoot right away. So I think good update. They made the necessary changes. Can be worse time.
I have to agree, really. The AWP now is a lot more dominant. Like, people won't get into positions where they can just get like 2 quick switch kills, like top and mid or something. They'd actually get into like a position where they can kill one, fall back, kill one, fall back, and just the play's a lot better from what I've seen.
Yeah, the AWP is really better now. We can see it in 1.6 that it was always used, but there's another problem now. That Valve need to fix to make the gameplay like 1.6 is that when you're running with your AWP and then stopping, you cannot shoot for like a half a second without the bullet getting straight through the crosshair. So that's pretty shitty, and you miss lots of shots like that. And that's the only one thing that we need to fix now.
Have they fixed the tap shooting with the AK then?
No. Still
no.
Yeah, that's still ruined.
Yeah, that's
is it just the 8K that's affected? I mean, because literally, I
think the unsilenced M4.
So I couldn't know.
Probably.
I think the rule of thumb for these updates is crouching solves everything. It just seems like everyone's just anytime they want to shoot their gun, they tap crouch right before they do it.
Just insta crouch around the corner.
Yeah. Panic crouching.
What about you, Martin? You're an old timer. You've been round the block, man. You've played with so many updates. You didn't used to play back when they had the hunchback models. Yeah. So
I started there. Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I still miss the incredible overpowered AWP. You could quick zoom and do everything. But no, I mean the game is certainly better with the AWP being like it is. But as Nathan also said, there's some problems. I also miss a lot of shots if you shoot fast and go around a corner. But I mean, it's a step in the right direction. But yeah, it's I still peak too early at the moment, so I get killed a lot with standing trying to scope my AWP, I'm getting really annoyed.
Well, what about the landing penalty? Because I know me and Brandon have disagreed about this already before the before the discussion. I mean, do you think there should be a landing penalty in the game? I really do. And I think, I hate, more than crouches, I hate jumpers. Like, I hate it. Like, you jump around a corner, bang, and before you've even, on my screen, your feet aren't even on the floor, and you've took my head off, and I can't be arsed with that. I don't know how anyone can be, and I don't want to see that in competition, because I think it should be the timing of your face and your ability to shoot with your feet firmly on the ground that rewards you, not kind of jump peeking and using interp to your advantage.
They should shorten it, though. I mean, I think it's too long. The delay.
Okay. I love it when idiots try to jump peek me with 0 ping. It's like, I'm just gonna shoot you in the face, dude, when you can't even shoot back. So.
But I mean, it seems to be such a problem online, or it used to be anyway. The whole jumping thing, I hated it so much. And I don't know if that's me just not being able to play or whatever, but it just seemed to be such an issue. Like everyone played that way with the AWP. Everyone played that way with the AWP. The days of peeking were over. It was always better to jump around the corner. And back in 2006, 2007, that used to be, that got you punished if you tried that.
Yeah, I'll go to orga though. You got just to shorten the delay when you land. That's gonna be great.
I think there's a bug though when you fall off a small ledge. Like the penalty is, it's larger than if you're just jumping and falling off a ledge or something. Just falling off a small ledge, you just can't shoot.
Just like walking downstairs, yeah.
Yeah, I tried it in the halls on Inferno, CT, going aggressive, looking down T hallways. shooting up in the ceiling or something. I don't know what happened, but
Yeah, it's screwed.
The Talking Point.
All right. Well, I think that will bring us nicely to the part that I know you guys are all really here to talk about, and that is, of course, ESWC. First thing I will throw out there, tournament structure. Do we like it or do we not like it?
Well,
Who wants to take this?
That is the tough question. But just before we do, just to
gonna-
reiterate, because maybe some people out there haven't heard what the tournament structure is, in which case I don't know why they're listening to this podcast, but whatever. It's basically going to be 2 groups of 6 with the top 2 progressing into a single elimination best of 3 bracket. So effectively straight into the semi-finals. So what do we think of it?
So as I said, I'm gonna take it. The 2 group stages are of 6 each one are gonna be really tough. I mean, that's gonna be the biggest part of the event for sure, because you cannot even, as the best of 1, you cannot even say to one match like, yeah, I'm gonna warm up in this match and not be as good as I could be. So you're gonna be really.
Best of 1's random as well.
It's gonna be a really hard mentally.
If you play a team on like their weakest map or strongest map, you just could get completely screwed over. But whilst if you play a best of 3, like you get to play your own map, and yeah.
Well, how are they going to do the maps? Is it going? I thought, are they going to do veto?
I'm pretty sure it's veto.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
veto, yeah.
I would
with
much-
a coin flip.
I'd much rather see a double elimination best of 3 right off the get-go, though, just because effectively you're playing the same amount of matches. In group stages, you play 5 single maps to advance to the playoffs, but in double elimination best of 3, you're still guaranteed those 4 maps. And if you lose all 4 in a row, then obviously you're out, but you deserve to be out because you just lost 4 in a row.
Yeah.
But you still have that chance to actually not get miracled out of the tournament. Like if we, get a crappy matchup, we're on a bad map that we're not good at, a map we're not comfortable with, we're not warmed up, whatever, that one map could mean the difference. But in a best of 3, we can recover from that and win the next 2 in a row to actually keep us in the tournament, take us to the championship. And for time constraints, it's going to work out to be the same amount of time, if not best of 3 double elimination might be shorter than having all 12 teams play 5 other teams each.
For me, I think it's a pressure thing as well is going to come into play, because obviously let's say you lose your first game, let's say it's against Very Games if you're in Group A, and you're expected to lose and you lose. So that's fair enough. But then going into your second game, all of a sudden there's this massive amount of pressure that wasn't necessarily there if you'd won your first game, because losing 2 games, that's pretty much going to put you in a position where, you are going to have to do something pretty special to kind of still qualify. It's not impossible, but, it's going to put you in a tough spot. And I think, that's going to come into play. I think the teams that don't start strong are going to struggle. And then, if you lose those 2 games, you lose those 3 games, it could be a clean sweep, because ultimately you've got nothing but pride to play for.
Exactly. I think someone mentioned on the forums that like if a team loses like 3 games, they're not going to try as hard in the 4th and the 5th. So like
which could decide who
essentially
does go through. Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
That was the one problem I had with the tournament structure, is that it could put in a situation where a team actually throws a game okay, let's say for example Reason and DS Rack. Now DS Rack aren't going to, we'll come to those in a second, Mark, and I know you're looking forward to that bit, but DS Rack aren't going to qualify from the groups. They're not. I don't even think they're going to win a game, except maybe against ESC, because the 2 worst teams have been put in the same group. But let's say Reason Gaming could finish second with a win over DS Rack, and they're all good Danish chums. If Reason were to win that game comfortably by enough rounds, would people then be asking the question, DS Rack have thrown it, and it could create this like really difficult kind of situation for people coming out of the tournament. A lot of bitterness and ill feeling.
Yep.
I think that's true, but it could be the same in other tournaments. So.
Yeah.
I think the fact that making only 2 going through the brackets will make also for the spectators really more impressive, as every single team are really gonna give everything in this group stages. As if you lose at least one map, it's gonna be devastating for the rest.
Well, that's
You're gonna-
actually
you're gonna
that's
give
actually my
everything.
point as well about why it's a good thing, because this is the first event I think we've got something comparable at 1.6. In 1.6 events, you look at the group stages, it's just all the best teams from their countries and
Yeah.
and
Anyone could go out.
Anyone, yeah, exactly.
I think this is going to be it's a good structure for lots of upsets to happen. You see MTW, LDLC, Dynamic, and Seacrest all in the same group, and then you see Very Games. They're if they lose one match. Let's say, since it's one map basically, and we have a really random whatever map we play against them, and then Apex does that as well. They could be out of the tournament really quickly. But if it was a BO3, things might have gone differently, where they could have recovered and then come back with the 2 maps. But I think just the one map, just to stress that point, it's just so random. I think we're going to see a lot of upsets this tournament, and it's really hard to predict who's actually going to win and all the placings.
Well, on that note, go on, Nathan.
I don't think it's gonna be really. I mean, it's not random based. I don't think so, because best of 1 is also. It's the first team which goes really on the game and just put the pressure, scream and so on, and give everything, showing every tactic, and so on. And I don't think it's really based on luck and randomness. I don't really think like that.
Okay.
It's
Well,
still the best team winning, generally.
From a spectator view, since I'm not attending, I mean, I'm looking forward to some good games and people really wanting to win all the rounds. So, I mean, I agree that BO3 would be more fair, but BO1 makes a hell of some games.
Well, and Steele said it was going to be difficult to predict, and guess what I'm going to ask you guys to do next? We've got the groups. They've been drawn. I'll just read them out for people listening who've been too lazy to check the website. Group A is Apex Esports, Check 6 Gaming, Orgless 5, Reason Gaming, Team DS Rack, and Team Very Games. Group B is going to be CKRAS Gaming, Fragmasters Toxic, MTW, Online Kingdom, Team Dynamic, and Team LDLC.com. So we'll start with Group A. Who do we see progressing? I know, Steele, obviously you're perhaps going to be a little bit biased in this. I think we can. Can we just get Very Games out the way? Nathan, is there any chance you're going out in the groups? Are you going to make this tournament interesting for people?
I'm not gonna say anything about predictions or whatever. I'm just gonna stay focused on my games, and as I saw that Alexius and still would be okay with me, they look very confident and like for a top 2 finish and being in the brackets. So I'm gonna go at least for Alexius in the top 2. I wouldn't say anything for the rest.
Okay.
I'm just gonna stay focused.
So that's a ringing endorsement, my good friend Steele. What do you think of that, Josh?
I think Very Games has a pretty good chance of being one of the teams out of Group A, and then I think most of the debate is between us and Apex, who of the two are going to make it out. I know a few people have reasons back, but I think it really comes down to who brings their A game the best. I think, obviously, that we have the ability to do it, as I've said plenty of times in other interviews where people
You don't
just
sound as confident as you do in print, though, do you?
No,
no,
like
actually
I see us in the
Nathan's
finals. I
here.
see us in the finals. How about that?
All right,
Come at me.
Yeah, that's better.
We're in the finals.
That's more like the
Group
guy
B-
that was talking earlier. You know?
Group B looks like it's a shitstorm. I really honestly don't know what to predict.
We'll come to Group B in a second. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. Hold your horses.
Okay. For
Right.
Group A, it's gonna be a fight between us and Apex, and I hope that one or both of us are able to upset Very Games, and both of us, both Check 6 and Apex, can advance, and Very Games gets knocked out.
Right, Brandon. What about you?
Well, yeah, again, I don't see Reason doing anything, neither DS Rack or Orgless 5. So, yeah, again, it's going to be between Check 6 and Apex. I think Check 6 are probably more prepared than Apex, just on the matter of fact, like, I guess they've played more over the summer or whatever. So I just see Vero games and then check 6. I don't see Apex doing it really.
Okay, well, here's the bit you've been waiting for, Martin. I know, obviously, ESWC has been a little bit of a sore point for you because you're not there. But I want to talk. There's 2 Danish teams in this group. Reason Gaming are actually, while we're recording this, doing quite well in the Gaming for Life LAN, which has been an absolute shambles from start to finish. But Reason Gaming are at least having a good time, a lot better than they did at One Night in Copenhagen. But I don't want to talk about Reason Gaming. DS Rack. I've got to pick your brains about them, man, because like everywhere I see these kids, they're talking themselves up and saying how good they are and how they don't get the respect they deserve. Then they go to these LAN events, and look, man, I know they're in the upper bracket final against Reason, but they've still in this LAN, this Gaming for Life LAN, but they're still giving away 14 rounds, 13 rounds against bad teams. Should we respect them? Am I missing something? Am I an idiot? What's going on?
I mean, to be honest, no. I mean, online, yes. I mean, they have a lot of confidence online, and they probably speak a lot more online. And I mean, on LAN, they just don't have the experience and I don't know what you would say in English, but I mean, I wouldn't say they would do a good job at ESWC. And I mean, looking at Gaming for Life LAN, who there's no good players. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, they're lucky in a way, I think, DS Rack, because they're in a group with the Germans, an Orgless 5. All due respect to them, they're Germans and they're at LAN, so immediately they've got problems, right? The fact that they're not even the second or third best team in Germany, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. And I think, again, DS Rack are going to be able to enjoy a victory there. I just hope I don't have to bloody hear about it for the rest of the year. We beat somebody at LAN, whoop-de shit, you beat some Germans, It just seems, I don't understand what the hype is about these guys. Like, I've even played briefly in a team with Hatton. That's how bad he is. If he's slumming it with me, something's very wrong. And I don't see anything wrong in highlighting Truman as the best player in that lineup. I mean,
no doubt.
I know you've had some run-ins with these guys in the past as well at DS Rack.
Yeah, I mean they're a good team, but they're good and they're pretty arrogant, no doubt about that. But I mean they're a good team, but they lack the confidence and to really do any harm at the LAN.
Okay, then I'll keep it Danish. So I'll stay with you, Martin. Reason Gaming. A lot of people seem to have discounted them as being potentially second spot. That seems to be either Apex or Check 6, with very games going through in the top slot. Do you think Reason could surprise and come through in second place, or do you think they don't have the roster to be able to do that?
I mean, they're a good team, and they're probably going to do some surprising results and have some close matches. But I don't believe them. I don't see them coming in top 2.
What about the rest of you guys? Have you? What's our experiences and thoughts about Reason Gaming?
Don't they place like 6th place at 8-team local lands, or like are these isn't this what happens? Yeah. So
my team beat them. That's why.
and at DS Rack number 3, I heard like they were one of the best teams in Europe, and then everyone's expecting them to be top 3, top 4. They come like 12th place or something. So I don't know.
I mean, it's a different lineup now, but I mean, they've I don't know what it is. They've had a bit of bad luck ever since they've gone Danish, Reason Gaming, and sometimes when it works, it seems very good, and they generally punch above their weight. But in other times, it doesn't, and they end up, kind of crashing and burning. Again, we saw it at 30p as well, where they went out to some Hungarians, which. I mean, that tells its own story, really. Although that, Hungarians have drawn with very games. So
story.
Yeah, there you are. Just to bring it up again. Not going to let you forget that. But yeah, so I mean, come on. I think they've got some wicked players. Like Jockern is really underrated. Kevin, of course, is back in Danish teams. He's played in European teams, UK lineups. The old demonic mix that went out to LAN 79 and placed 3rd. And Frost, I think, is the dirty little secret of the Danish scene.
No.
Yeah, but you haven't seen our Frost.
Don't say no. What do you mean no?
He's. Oh my god! Don't get me started on Frost.
I'm getting you started on Frost. Come on. Come on,
I think
out with it.
he's the best player online. When he gets to LAN, I don't think he's very good, but we'll see, I guess.
I mean, I play with him in Rocket, version 2 Rocket.
Yeah.
We had, and I think he was a good player. I didn't see a difference online versus the LAN
But I'm
performance.
talking about his, like, you see his clips on YouTube, he's got, like, the 4-1 digs every day, like, a new clip's uploaded of him getting, like, 4-1 digs against Very Games or something. It's just, he's so good and confident. And then, when I watched him at LAN, I watched him at that one night in Copenhagen, he was just awful. Same with Hunden, I don't know. Don't see it, really.
To be fair, that I'm not blaming Onik, but I mean there was a lot of PC problems, and I'm not gonna go there anyway.
I was gonna, not like you, Martin, not like you. But okay, well look, so Group A, I think we've got a rough idea. I'll come back to you, Josh, just quickly before we move on to Group B. Do you feel under any extra pressure because you're effectively representing a continent rather than just an organisation or a country?
I'm representing myself. I have this. No, I don't have any extra pressure just because we're one of two teams from North America. I don't feel extra pressure that we're representing any other people. It's still me gonna play my game. I'm gonna be playing my game with my teammates. They're gonna be playing their game. We're all gonna just come together and play our game and go and play our best and try to win.
Okay, right then, Group B it is. So, wide open. I'll start with Nathan on the end there. Who's going through? Who's going to be top 2 in this?
I really don't know at all. It's like the only team I played from this group stage is Secrets. We had really tough games against them in practice. I'm gonna play the MTW tomorrow though, but I also played FM Toxic, but I really don't know. I didn't play LGLC since now June, so I really don't know. I mean, I know the top 4 of the group, but I wouldn't be. So.
Well, I'll ask about LDLC just while you're still here, Nathan, because a lot of people think they're going to be the team that if any team can beat you, it's going to be LDLC. I don't know if that's just because you're both French, but it seems to be what people are saying. I think people are overrating LDLC a little bit, to be honest.
I think they don't. LDLC are already playing a lot, like 5 maps every single night since 1 month or 1 month and a half. They're all playing a lot. Apex has like 100 hours in 2 weeks. They're really playing a lot, and we played them in June, and we didn't know their game style exactly, and this was really tough games. We took on the first half 11-4 and then managed to come back 12-1, something like that. So it's gonna be really tough against them if we meet them in the bracket, and if we go both through. But I don't know. I really don't know. There are too much good teams there.
Well, Brandon, you're next. You're obviously in this group with MTW. I was talking to Hossa earlier today, asking him how your preparation's been going. I won't repeat what he said. How do you see it all?
What, the group in general or our preparation?
Bit of both. Why not?
The group in general, it's harder than Group 1, obviously. Like, there's 4. I think Toxic could possibly do it as well, so I say 5 teams there that could all possibly come top 2. One thing I know for certain, I don't think Dynamic will come top. Well, I don't think Dynamic are that good. They're overrated, but other than that...
Wow.
Yeah. Well, come on then. Come on. You're wowing.
Krutherhampen.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is that fair to say? Like,
yeah, you can say what you like. I'm not gonna say anything about it.
I think the 4 on MTW are good. I think Krutherhampen's just way out of his league in that. I spectated finals of, I think it was I-43 versus Very Games, and that kid was just rushing down banana, dying, just completely throwing the match for you guys. in terms of the other matchups in that group, I think it's going to be a really close toss-up. I can't predict anything right now. LDLC's looking pretty strong. Dynamic, I think they're going to really shape their shit up after their ESCA land loss. Online Kingdom, what the fuck are they doing here? MTW, I spoke about them already. FM Toxic, I heard that they have some, I guess, potential, but when it comes down to it, I think Seacrest, MTW, Dynamic, LDLC, between the 4 of those teams, maybe we're going to see LDLC, MTW, or Dynamic, MTW.
Right,
Something around those lines.
I'm gonna plant my flag and just talk a little bit, and I'll get Martin involved with this as well, about CKRAS, because look, I know how badly these guys want it and how much practice they've been putting in, and they are really well drilled going into this. I mean, their manager, young Jahan, who we all know and love, he's had them practicing on like 60 hertz and for a week. He's got all these like special, kind of setups that they've been doing in terms of drilling them. And Fetish really, 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 really wants to get out the groups. He'll be very disappointed if they don't. Now, Martin, a lot of these guys, they're old school like you, with the likes of Home and 3K2 and Fetish. Do you think they can qualify from that group?
Yeah, but they will have a tough time, no doubt. As long as they keep their good spirits, I mean, they will probably go to the brackets. But again, it's a hard group, and yeah, it's going to be hard for them.
The way the games work, they've got the opportunity to get off to a good start because they're playing Fragmasters Toxic in their first game. Swedes and Danes resuming battles. Do you think, maybe that momentum could carry through the team if they can get a win there? Perhaps, is it not even inconceivable they could perhaps even top the group?
I don't think they will top the group. I think they'll get them second. That's my prediction, anyway. It's a hard call.
that group is lethal. I think you've got the. It's probably the least impressive in terms of the teams that are in it, but all the teams in it are closer together in terms of their ability to beat each other. I don't think Dynamic are going to get out the groups, guys.
Seeing from what I know and what my experience are, I've played Seacrest, Fragmasters, MTW, LDC. Out of those 4, I think Seacrest and MTW will be top 2. I don't know anything about Dynamic and LDLC.
I played Dynamic once or twice, I can't really remember, and that wasn't really close at all. We won like basically every single map. We won 26-4, something like that. So I think Dynamic are very overrated regarding the GS Track 3, when they almost won every single game 16-14.
They did have, it was 3 games in a row that basically took them from 5th to 6th to the final.
Yeah,
they won 16-14.
Again, the ping is so dependent. We played Steel's team actually, and I think we even won the PCW, but who cares? It's still the ping difference is always a factor, and I don't know if you played on the New York server, but it makes the game so much random.
We played them in June on the New York server, and we were basically, we had like 100 of ping, and that was one close match, and then the others weren't close. So I don't know. I think they were overrated regarding the top 2 they made at TS Track 3, but we're gonna see when they come there, and hopefully they will make me lie. So.
Well, last thing, because I know you were a bit disparaging about them, Josh, but the Portuguese, could they not be the surprise element at the competition? No one's talked about them, but in the likes of Fix, they've got a fantastic AWPer. Budge is probably the best all-rounder Portugal's ever produced. I think Emotion is a really great rifler, and New is a very good caller and tactician. Could they not catch people cold?
Honestly, I never heard about them until I read that article. I think it was you wrote about them last week.
Yeah, I wrote
just a few days ago, actually.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know how they got into the tournament. I didn't know anything about them. I've never seen them at any other events. But then again, I don't keep up too well.
It's
I just
quite
know
bizarre,
the
actually,
top
just
tiers.
because in terms of all the countries that had their shit together, Portugal and France were the two. Right, not the people you would associate with being the most industrious of nations. Yet Portugal managed to have a national qualifier. The UK didn't. Sweden didn't. America didn't.
I know. What the hell?
What the fuck is going on? Yeah. But Portugal had and they beat Fragmaster's Sapphire in overtime to secure, and then basically picked up Fragmaster Sapphire's best player for a final piece, like an absolute piece. You're not coming to ESWC and we're taking your star player off you and pretty much folding the team. So
That's a slap in the face.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know too
teabagging.
much about them to actually make a accurate prediction,
Mhm.
but I'm still gonna stick with those 4 teams.
Do you want? Here's one last question before I move on to the next thing, which we're going to start wrapping it up now because I know I've kept you a bit longer than you perhaps anticipated. But do you want to see Team Dynamic fail, Josh, because you used to be with them and obviously you left the team, or do you want to see them do well? I mean, in an ideal world, if it could pan out that way, would you like to play them in the final? What are your feelings?
I do and I don't. I want to place higher than them. That's where me wanting them to fail comes into play. I know it's just 4 teams that are making it to the semifinals, so if they're there, then obviously I want them to fail because I want to be that team who's first or second slot. But I do want them to be successful because I did enjoy playing with them. I think Adren Eric is one of the best players in the world. I think he deserves a really good showing here. So I do want to see them do well as well because they're representing North America along with me. They're representing Canada actually, and I'm Canadian. I'm the only Canadian. Oh no, I'm one of 2 Canadians on my team. So I want to see them succeed. I want to see them in the top 4, but I want to beat them obviously. So.
Okay, well, final thoughts are basically going to be just about, there is obviously a 1.6 tournament happening as well, and, that's looking, impressive. The kind of thing I want to finish on is, this old 1.6 versus CSS debate, and, is this ESWC for you guys the kind of turning point where CSS is going to start getting more respect as an esports title? Is it a one-off freakish occurrence that the game has been included? Is 1.6 still going to be the team FPS of choice as we move into the next year and the year after that? What do you guys think about both games, especially with CSGO looming? What do you think about this tournament in particular and what it'll do for the future of both titles?
I think Source is gradually getting bigger again. I think CSGO might have the potential to dissolve both games, but right now ESCA, the Source division is just as big as the 1.6. Actually, there are more Source teams now than 1.6 teams in ESCA. Mm-hmm. The prize pot for Invite is matched up with 1.6 now with $10,000 first place. I think the only edge that 1.6 has right now over Source is that there's IEM for 1.6, there's WCG, and until those pick up Source, I think that 1.6 is still going to have that edge, but I think Source is really picking it up, and soon we'll see Source and CSGO being the top 2 games to play.
Okay, yeah, go on.
Agree, yeah. But there's another thing. When you compare 1.6 and Counter-Strike Source, I just look at that. Regarding the gameplay, 1.6 is way in front of Counter-Strike Source. I mean, it's really different, but when you play 1.6, you see that it's really clean, it's really normal when you put a headshot or something like that. But when you're a constructor, sometimes you're like headshotting someone and you're like, whoa, what the fuck, how did I do that?
So true.
That's basically a really point between those 2 games, and gameplay is not as good as it could be on Source. And when all the developers from Valve just understand what we mean, what we would like to change to make the gameplay even better, I think it's going to be a real game. And now for the competition, I've got to agree with Josh. as we still miss IAM, WCG, and major competition.
Well, you must have heard the same rumours I've heard. I say the rumours. I pretty much go on the record and say it is going to happen. And that is that Intel Extreme Masters is going to be announced for CSS. Have we heard that?
Yep. I was told in Seattle it's pretty much dead certain that it's happening, but yeah.
I think those are decent points about 1.6, but you still have to account for all the bullshit that happens in 1.6. There are so many glitches with that game. You can start holding crouch and jumping and turning around in circles, and people cannot hit you. I shoot people with my Glock or whatever, see their body twitching 15 times, but I have 0 hits on them. So I think that argument goes both ways with that.
Yeah, I think the benefit that 1.6 has when it comes to that argument is the bugs in that game have been around for so long now that they've become like features, and people, people have just got on. No, serious, because you think about you think about fucking like Russian walking and duck jumping and all of this shit that was in that. Like when people move from 1. I mean, I'm an old bastard. I can talk about these things. When people move from 1.5 to 1.6, everyone said they broke the game. That was it. You broken the same thing we hear with Source. You've broken the game. It's all over. We don't want to play it anymore. So that's what people were saying, and now 1.6, a few years later, is being held up as this, paragon of, the perfect FPS title. When, like you say, it has got glitches and bugs in it.
Yeah, the game, as much as Source is crap because you have that peeker's advantage, you have, shitty recoil spreads and patterns, you have, opping's too easy, you can re-peek, there's no tagging. For as many issues that Source has, there's an equal amount of issues that 1.6 has. And I think that both games are equally as shit and equally as good, and there's no real debate. You can't compare them chess and checkers. They have the same basic foundation, idea of how the game's supposed to be handled, and 2 different approaches to it, just like Han and Dota. And people say Dota's better because it's the original game, but the game looks like shit. There's its own bugs and glitches in the Warcraft 3 engine, so it goes both ways.
All right, well, guys, just before, this is it, the absolute final thoughts. From right to left, so starting with Nathan and ending with Josh. Thoughts about ESWC, in perhaps a few words. How pumped are we?
I'm just going to say one word, awesome.
Great. Brandon?
It's going to be amazing. Great experience, and that's about it, really.
Don't sound too enthusiastic, bro. I know you got practice in 2 minutes or something, but still. Martin, spectator. We're actually going to have, and again, I don't mind saying this, we're going to have a big 500-person vent made so people can watch games together and maybe get some guest casters on and stuff, kind of a CADRED vent. It'd be great to see you on there, but are you looking forward to watching it all?
Yeah, of course. I'll follow the Danish teams with joy. Hopefully they will advance from groups, but it will be good games. I'm looking forward to it. And
Josh, the last word probably is fitting from a person like yourself.
Let's fucking go!
Right, great. Look, guys, thanks a lot for coming on. The podcast will be uploaded shortly, so I'm literally getting it out pretty much live, so you guys will be able to listen to it in about 30 minutes. But from all of the CADRED people, myself included, thanks for taking the time out. And to all the listeners, I hope it was educational, entertaining, and informative. You can probably combine those 3 words into something clever to make one word. I'm not able to do it because I've been rabbiting away for an hour. So hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week.
Coming up next.
Okay, and that was the cadred.org ESWC special podcast. Hopefully that was informative and entertaining and all the other stuff you would expect from it. And if it wasn't, well, tough fucking shit, because you've listened to it now, not much you can do about it. That's about an hour of your life you're never going to get back. By the time you've listened to it, we'll be en route to ESWC in Paris. Myself, Jonas, our StarCraft 2 editor, and we've got a very special guest who's going to be helping us with coverage over the course of the week. None other than COD 4 legend Tom Diablo Newman. I'm sure a lot of you remember him You'll be able to expect the usual high standard of written coverage and plenty of video footage as well from all of the tournaments. We are going to try and cover as many as possible. We're not just solely going to focus on CSS, and indeed with them being staggered, CSS not starting until the 24th, we are going to have time to have a good look at the 1.6 guys and the StarCraft 2 guys as well. We're also going to make inroads into Dota 2, so absolutely looking forward to it. I can't wait for the week to start. Just before I do sign off, though, I'd like to say something a little bit serious. Obviously, some of you will be aware that it was the 1-year anniversary this week of the passing away of Shayan Taleb, who made a name for himself at numerous gaming organisations, from Roccat to Four Kings, and was obviously at Rage when he passed away. It's been, weird kind of remembering his legacy and everything that he meant to esports in our kind of tributes to him on the website, because it doesn't seem real that he's not around anymore. And if you knew him, even a fraction as well as I did, I'm sure you'd agree. He was just a great guy and made a great and lasting contribution to esports, not least of all, I would say, in kind of inspiring me and pushing me on to continue and onto other things. I would never have got back into management if it weren't for him, and indirectly that gave me probably my fondest memory in all of these esports adventures the last 6 years, which was beating Crack Clan at I-36. It seems kind of small and trivial, I guess, compared to a lot of people's stories and achievements, but that game was just a classic, and I remember calling Shayan after it and just telling him that we were into the next round and stuff, and he was psyched, and he knew that I wanted to win that game, and he did as well. He wanted us to kind of win every tournament we went to. So I hope as the kind of years go by, there's better people than me to do him justice, and I'd like to think that whatever happens in the future, there are going to be people there that remember him, for the right reasons, which, look, he wasn't just solely about esports, but it was a massive part of his life, and he dedicated so much of his time to it, and he dedicated a large part of his life to the other people who were involved in it as well, which I think the biggest kind of tribute you can pay to somebody is when they're not, in the limelight all the time, but they're always involved. And that pretty much summed up Shayan for me. Pretty much everything that was going on in esports, he had an understanding of, and he had a handle on it. That's why it becomes so difficult to try and chronicle exactly all of his achievements, because many of them were the kind of thing that people wouldn't even think to talk about or to bring up. It was just his way. It was just how he was involved with stuff, whether it was helping players and teams independently get sponsors outside of his organization, whether it was working hard to kind of just generally promote esports by talking to the media and coming up with new schemes and projects that he would throw himself into head first, a lot of which sure didn't come to fruition because he was taken from us too soon. Anyway, I'm a lot more eloquent in print, as you can probably tell, than I am when I'm trying to record something. So I just wanted to say, if you knew him this week while ESWC is on, think about somebody who did so much so esports could have events like that, and did so much to try and promote it and to make it something that was holistic and complete in the same way we think of regular sports and other pursuits. Because, if he was still here, I'm convinced he'd be made up, and I know we'd be spending a long time watching the games together and talking about all of that stuff. So I know that I'll be pushing myself especially hard this week with him in mind. With that in mind, I hope you enjoy the coverage from ESWC, and I hope it lives up to the cadred.org standard. I'll certainly be here next week with another podcast.
The catred.org podcast, your weekly guide to the world of esports news. Presented by Richard Lewis.